My name is Matthew, and I want to tell you a story I thought would never happen to someone like me. It is a story about the American dream, and how quickly it can turn into a nightmare. This is about the time my wife was pregnant and our insurance turned its back on our home. It all started on a perfect Tuesday afternoon. The sun was shining, and I was painting the spare room a soft shade of yellow. We had just found out we were having a baby, a little girl. My wife Sarah was glowing her laughter, filling the house with a joy I had never known before. We were living the life we had always planned. I had a good job as a manager at a local logistics company. We had a mortgage on a small but beautiful house in a friendly neighborhood, and we had health insurance, the kind we paid for every month without fail, believing it was our safety net. We felt secure. We felt grown up. We felt ready. The first hook, a tiny one I barely noticed, came a few weeks later. A letter arrived from our insurance company. It was full of complicated words and legal phrases, but the main point seemed to be that our premiums were going up slightly. I remember showing it to Sarah over dinner. We shrugged it off. That's just how it is, we said. Everyone pays more for insurance every year. It's just a part of life. We signed the new forms and sent them back, never imagining we were signing away our safety. Then, the real hook came. It was not a letter this time. It was a phone call. My company was restructuring. My position was being eliminated. Just like that, the steady paycheck, the foundation of our dream, was gone. I walked out of the office that day holding a cardboard box with my things in it. My hands would not stop shaking. How was I going to tell Sarah? How was I going to provide for my family? The dream felt like it was cracking. The next few months were a blur of fear and frantic activity. I applied for every job I could find. I delivered food in the evenings to make ends meet. Sarah, her belly growing bigger every day, tried to hide her worry, but I could see it in her eyes. We cut every expense we could, but the mortgage payment and that insurance premium were like two giants looming over us every month. We used up our savings. Then, we started using our credit cards. I remember the exact moment the ground gave way completely. It was a rainy afternoon, and Sarah was 28 weeks pregnant. She had been feeling unwell for a couple of days, but she insisted it was just normal pregnancy aches. Then she called me, her voice tight with pain. "Matthew, something is wrong." I rushed her to the hospital, my heart pounding in my chest. The doctors were calm but serious. They said Sarah had a severe infection. They needed to admit her and start strong antibiotics immediately. They needed to protect the baby for 3 days. I barely left her side. I held her hand and watched monitors beep. I prayed like I had never prayed before. The doctors and nurses were amazing. They stabilized Sarah, and our baby girl was safe inside her. We were so relieved. We thought the worst was over. Then a financial advisor from the hospital came into the room. She had a clipboard and a sympathetic smile. She asked about our insurance. I explained my situation, that I was between jobs, but that we were still paying for our private insurance. I gave her all the details. She typed things into her computer, and her smile faded. She looked at me and said the words that would haunt my dreams. "I am so sorry, Mr. Evans, but your policy was canceled last month for non-payment." The world stopped. "Non-payment," I stammered. "But we sent the check." I had sent the check. I remembered putting it in the envelope. The insurance company had raised the premium again, and with all the stress of job hunting and Sarah being unwell, I must have mailed the payment a few days late. It could not be true. It was a mistake. I called the insurance company right from Sarah's hospital room. I was put on hold for 45 minutes, listening to cheery music that felt like a cruel joke. Finally, a representative came on the line. I explained the situation. "My wife is in the hospital," I pleaded. "She's pregnant. We have always paid on time." This was one mistake. The voice on the other end was cold and robotic. "I am sorry, sir, but our records show the payment was received 17 days past the due date. The policy was terminated according to the terms you agreed to. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do." Those 6 words shattered my world. The safety net was not just frayed. It was gone. Vanished because of a 17-day delay. The representative did not care that my wife was pregnant. She did not care that we were scared. She was just following a script, a coded script that had no room for human error or human suffering. Sarah was discharged from the hospital a week later. She was okay, and the baby was still safe, but she needed to be on strict bed rest. We went home, but the house did not feel like a home anymore. It felt like a cage. The first medical bill arrived. It was for $20,000. I opened it, and my knees went weak. $20,000 for a 3-day hospital stay. I could not breathe. More bills followed, each one a fresh wave of panic. The total quickly climbed to numbers I could not even comprehend. 50,000, 70,000. It was more than I had ever earned in a year. We tried to fight it. I wrote letters. I made more phone calls. I explained our story over and over again to different people in different departments. The answer was always the same. The policy was lapsed. We are not liable. The B system was a brick wall, and we were just two people smashing ourselves against it. Then the letters from the mortgage company started arriving. We had fallen behind on our payments. We tried to explain about the medical bills, but they did not care. A house is not a charity, they said. Pay or face foreclosure. The two giants, the mortgage and the medical bills, were now working together to crush us. The most terrifying day was when a formal foreclosure notice arrived in the mail. I read the words, "taking possession of your property," and I felt physically sick. This was not just a house. This was the room I painted for our daughter. This was the kitchen where Sarah and I cooked dinner together. This was the garden where we dreamed of watching our child play. This was our home, and we were going to lose it. Sarah was now 34 weeks pregnant. The stress was taking a terrible toll on her. She tried to be strong for me, but I would find her crying silently in the nursery. She was afraid to bring our baby home to a place that might not be ours for much longer. I felt like a failure. What kind of man cannot provide a home for his wife and child? I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I was a ghost haunting my own life. We had one last hope, a hearing with the bank to plead our case for a loan modification. The day of the hearing, Sarah's blood pressure was high. The doctor said the stress was dangerous for her, and the baby. I had to go to the meeting alone. I put on my only good suit and walked into a cold conference room with a large wooden table. On one side was me. On the other side were 3 bank officials in crisp suits. I told them our story. I laid my heart bare on that table. I talked about losing my job. I talked about Sarah's pregnancy and the hospital stay. I explained the insurance mistake. I begged them for more time. I promised I would find a job and pay every penny back. I was not asking for a handout, just a chance. The head official, a man with a stern face, listened without expression. When I finished, he shuffled his papers. He said the bank sympathized with our situation, but a contract was a contract. The payments were delinquent. The foreclosure process would continue. There was nothing they could do. I walked out of that building into the bright sunlight, and everything seemed blurry. I had failed. I had lost our home. I drove home feeling numb. I did not know how I was going to tell Sarah. I walked through the front door, and she was waiting for me in the living room, her face pale. She saw my expression, and she knew. She started to cry, and then she gasped, "David, my water broke." Panic like ice water shot through me. It was too early. She was only 35 weeks. I rushed her back to the same hospital we had been in just weeks before. This time, it was not for an infection. It was for the birth of our child. But all I could think was, how are we going to pay for this? The delivery was long and difficult. Sarah was so weak from the stress, and the baby was small. I held her hand and whispered words of encouragement, but inside I was screaming. The doctors decided to do a cesarean section because the baby was in distress. I remember signing a consent form, my hand shaking so badly I could barely write my name. I was signing for a procedure that would cost tens of thousands of dollars we did not have. And then I heard it, a tiny cry. Our daughter was born. She was so small and perfect. They had to take her to the neonatal intensive care unit to help her breathe. I went with her, my heart bursting with love and breaking with fear at the same time. I looked at this tiny fragile life in an incubator, and I knew I had to save her. I had to save our family. Sitting in that ICU, watching my daughter fight for every breath, something in me snapped. It was not anger anymore. It was a fierce, determined calm. I took out my phone. I started recording a video. I did not care how I looked or sounded. I told the whole story right there from the hospital corridor. I spoke about the insurance company turning its back. I spoke about the bank refusing to listen. I spoke about the mountain of debt. I showed the beeping monitors of the NIC. I did not ask for money. I asked for help. I asked for someone to see what was happening to ordinary families. I posted the video online. I sent it to local news stations. I had no hope left, so I turned my private shame into a public plea. Then something incredible happened. The video started to be shared. First by friends, then by strangers. Thousands of people shared it. A reporter from a major news. Reconsider. They offered payment plans. The public pressure was too great for them to ignore. We did not get a magic solution. We still had enormous debt, but we were able to stop the foreclosure. We were able to keep our home, strangers said. Up a small fundraiser that helped us pay for a few months of mortgage payments. I eventually found a new job. It was not the same as my old one, but it was work. We brought our daughter home a month later. We named her Hope, because that is what she gave us back. We walked through the front door, and for the first time in months, the house felt like a home again. It was not perfect. The financial struggle was not over, but we were together. What I learned through this nightmare is that the system is not built for people. It is built for profits. It is built on small print and strict deadlines. They count on you being too tired, too poor, or too scared to fight back. But your story is your power. There are more people who want to help than there are people who want to hurt you. Oh, if you are listening to this and you are facing a similar battle, do not give up. Do not let them make you feel small or alone. Your home is more than wood and brick. It is your family, your dreams, your love. Fight for it. Tell your story, because you never know who is listening and whose heart you might touch. Our little Hope is a toddler. Now her laughter once again fills the halls of our home. A home we almost lost, but fought with everything we had to keep.